Hello and welcome to the Everywhere We Go podcast. Now it's nearing the time that, well, everybody's jetting off, including Chris, because at time of recording, where are you?
At Heathrow Airport in a hotel right now.
Oh my goodness. So
Mm.
it's very real. And you're not back in the UK until when?
Yeah, the end of Jan. So it's a long old stint, but we've got, yeah, it's one of the pleasures this winter being able to travel and stay away for a long period of time. But off to a conference in America about cricket, which will be really, really interesting as probably the fastest growing part of the world for cricket. Obviously, the Olympics coming up in a few bits, so really excited to see what's going on over in the States, and then flying direct from the States to Melbourne to settle in a couple of weeks before the big series starts, James.
Oh my goodness, it's come round so quick, isn't it? And look, when we spoke to Jamie Smith, I was in the States. I got back. It feels like winter here, which obviously then you associate with staying up all night watching the cricket. It does. It's getting close. It's getting close. And we've been watching the T20s as well against New Zealand as well on Saturday mornings, which has been well, just getting myself wedged into that sofa position at an ungodly hour, which is brilliant. So, with that in mind, what we have done is we have looked at our back catalogue of guests and seen Joe Root and Tim Bresnan and all the rest, and we've gone, we're just missing one thing, and that is Chris.
Unfortunately, an Australian. No, in all seriousness, like we'd love to say that the guest that we've got on this show is someone who's a typical Australian that you clash with a little bit, but what a man, what a bloke.
Just amazing. In our previous incarnation many years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, I remember speaking to Glenn McGrath, part of the podcast, and I was so nervous talking to him and preparing for it. And before when he popped on whatever we used at the time, Zoom or whatever, we were going, oh my goodness. But he instantly puts you at ease, doesn't he? He's an amazing guest. Obviously, he's talking all about the Pink Test and the Glenn McGrath Foundation. But we have quite a lot of good cricket chat to come, not just in this episode, but in another episode as well that is coming out in a few weeks from now. But Chris, he's just a joy, isn't he? And talking all about the foundation as well.
He is, he absolutely is, and he's someone that I guess growing up, he was very much in our era, wasn't he? As we were growing up, watching and getting into Test cricket, it was McGrath and Lee. They were the formidable bowling attack for Australia, and McGrath, Lee, Warne. I mean, those guys in our eyes are absolute superstars and heroes. And you grow up, you see these people on telly, you're watching them, you're thinking, wow, he's unbelievable. Obviously, the '05 incident that put him out of the series. There's so many things that I remember from my childhood with Glenn McGrath. So you are right. When you see him on a video call, I guess a few years ago when we had him on, it was a little different to now. But even still, you have a conversation with him and you're just in awe of him. And I think it comes so naturally to him as one of the greatest bowlers of all time. But also just the way he holds himself and the presence. And some people just have an aura, don't they? And Glenn certainly got that.
Yeah, yeah. I know a few of the TMS team who worked with him sporadically over, many series home and away since, he's hung up his boots. And they say, oh, I was really hoping that he was not going to be a very nice man, just to kind of justify my own, ill wishes towards him when he was a player. But no, he's nothing but an absolute gent. And that is exactly what you will discover on this episode of Everywhere We Go. If you haven't listened to any of our back catalogue of guests, they are all pretty timeless. All their conversations and hopefully our questions are still fairly relevant. So do check those out. But enough from me and you, Chris. You've got a flight to catch. You go and enjoy yourself. The next time we speak, you'll be somewhere far flung. But for now, enjoy Glenn McGrath on the Everywhere We Go podcast. First of all, Glenn, it's an absolute treat to have you part of the Everywhere We Go podcast, one of the true legends of Aussie cricket. And also a very good sport for coming into, I suppose, enemy territory once again to talk to us too. How are things?
Yeah, going well. Going well. Looking forward to the Ashes. Been sort of busy at the moment. I know there's a little bit of cricket with Australia playing India in some T20s one day. As I think England's over in New Zealand, aren't they? So
Yeah.
just sort of preparing for the summer and yeah, it's looking forward to it. I am commentating for TMS again, so I've been doing a bit of stuff with them, a bit of previews and sort of just ramping it up. So it's a pretty exciting time.
I heard you naming the combined team the other night, actually, which was that was quite good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. It always is, and I'm quite pro Australian, which might come as a surprise to you guys. And when you got Warne and Tuffers, Warne's interesting. He tries to actually do it from a non-biased perspective sometimes, but it's Warne's good value. Tuffers always a laugh, and the TMS guys are brilliant.
It's going to be brilliant. It is for me one of the pleasures. I mean, I'm not going to pretend. I mean, Chris will be there at every single day of every
Yeah, yeah.
single test match. For me, I won't be. I'll be watching a little bit on the TV, listening on the radio. Absolutely love flicking it on at some ungodly hour and hearing you guys bring it to life. It's fantastic. So, highly recommend that for those listening who are wondering how to consume it. We'll talk about the Ashes in a moment and get your inevitable 5-0 prediction, Glenn.
Yeah.
Let's talk first and foremost, though, about the McGrath Foundation. For anybody who doesn't know the full story, just talk to me about what the mission of the McGrath Foundation is.
Yeah, so the McGrath Foundation now has been going for 20 years. So 2005 is when we started, when we first launched. 2005 has been well known for other reasons, especially in Ashes cricket too. But that was from my late wife Jane, who was English herself, and the journey through breast cancer. And then having, from when she was first diagnosed to then when she had the recurrence, all of a sudden there was a breast care nurse there, and the difference that made in our lives, but especially hers, was incredible. We soon realised not enough of these amazing people out there, and that's why we launched the McGrath Foundation in 2005. Two very clear objectives. One was to raise awareness of breast cancer also in younger women, and the other one was to raise funds to place breast care nurses in communities right across the country. So 2005, we started that, and then unfortunately Jane lost her battle in 2008. At that time we had 4 nurses employed. Now we have over 300 nurses. They've supported over 160,000 families, not only going through breast cancer but now going through any type of cancer, because the government came to us last year and asked if we now take that support to families, individuals going through any type of cancer, which I thought was absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's what we do. That's why we started the McGrath Foundation. We're coming up to the 18th pink test, and that's been a massive part of who we are, and that's what I love about sport, and especially cricket. It just brings people together from all walks of life, and what's been created there is very special. And yeah, McGrath Foundation, I know you guys, Barmy Army, have been big supporters in previous tours as well, and that's what I love. It just brings people together.
Yeah, we love getting behind the foundation, as you know, Glenn. This tour we are going extra large. We've got pink vests, we've got pink hats, we've got pink party shirts, we've got pink t-shirts, we've got some Sydney special shirts. So the Barmy Army is going to be very pink, you can rest assured.
Well, we won't miss you guys, will we? I think there's going to be a few of the Barmy Army out there, and as you can see, I've got my pink shirt on at the moment. Over half my wardrobe is pink. And it's funny, when I grew up playing cricket, you wouldn't have pink anywhere near your cricket gear, and now to see the pink sort of nearly synonymous with cricket to a degree because of the Sydney Test, and just the way people come out and support it and proudly wear pink. When you see big burly blokes proudly wearing pink at the cricket, then you've created something pretty special. And who would have thought all those years back when the Barmy Army were giving it to us on the field there, that you'd be getting behind old Australian cricketer and donning the pink. So it's very, very special, and so proud to partner up with you guys and be involved.
How many of those have you been to, Chris?
This will be unfortunately we weren't there in 21-22, but this will be my second pink test. But the guys have been there since it all started. So there's a long history of Barmy Army getting behind Pink Day, and it's great because, like you say, Glenn, it's about cricket coming together. We've seen it with the Ruth Strauss Foundation as well, who do something very similar, who I know you work with closely. Cricket is, despite all the rivalries, it's one of the most united, diverse games in the world, and I think it's a great way to celebrate it.
Yeah, definitely. I have done a lot with Straussy and what they're doing there, turning Lord's red for Ruth, is very special too. And I've always thought it's a little ironic because my late wife Jane was English, Straussy's wife Ruth was Aussie. So it's
Yeah.
funny how it's all come. I knew Ruth quite well. I played that a little bit for Middlesex in '04, and know Straussy pretty well. So it's funny where life takes you sometimes, isn't it?
What's a moment that's really kind of hit home for you when you've been doing it? I suppose there's been many, and not least, when you see it all go pink for that Test match. But what away from the cricket has been a moment, because you're living this 365 days a year,
Yeah.
Glenn. It's not just when we see it on our TV screens. What's been a moment where you've really gone, yeah, this is why we do it?
There's been so many times, so nearly on a daily basis, because I travel around Australia quite a bit, and my family, my wife Sarah, our children, and myself, we basically live it every day. We have people coming up and sharing their stories. They originally coming up and say they've been through breast cancer, and they tell me their story, and then they say they've had one of our McGrath breast care nurses, and the positive difference it made in their lives was incredible. And now, people coming up with different types of cancers saying they've had a McGrath cancer care nurse. And I think those times just shows me just the impact it's having. You realise what we're doing is having a massive impact, but it also inspires me to keep going. Those stories on a daily basis, it is something we live day in, day out. But I do view myself a very fortunate person with what I've done in life. Sure, there's been some really bloody tough times without a doubt, but I think everyone's got their own challenges, own battles to face, and it's how you pick yourself up and carry on, and the people in our lives allow us to do that. So I've been very fortunate with the people I've had in my life.
I'd imagine that you must meet so many other people as well through the foundation. Do those interactions still kind of motivate you day to day?
Yeah, I guess so. We've got an amazing team at the foundation, and just the passion, the energy they have for something that's really close to my heart. It's always incredibly special. But I see a lot of our nurses as well. As I said, we're over 300, and that's growing all the time. And now that we support all cancers, that could be, who knows, in 5 or 10 years, that could be 1,100 nurses, which would be phenomenal. But just seeing them and what they do on a daily basis is pretty incredible. So, I still view myself a country boy, born and bred out in the middle of New South Wales off a sheep and wheat farm. I've just played a bit of cricket, so 6 days a week I wish nobody knew who I was, but 1 day a week, you can live with that, and the fact that I can use that profile for hopefully something good, it all works out well.
It certainly does. We're going to have some announcements in a second episode here on the Everywhere We Go podcast about the pink test. So we'll talk about that in a few weeks from now. Looking forward to hearing what's to come, particularly for some of our members as well who are going to be headed down under. And for Chris as well, this is all news to you. So looking forward to hearing about that. Let's talk about the cricket though, Glenn.
Yeah.
As we've already discussed, Ashes very, very close now. So before we get anywhere, let's get the prediction out of the way. It's going to be a 5-0 prediction, isn't it?
I think I've already made a couple of predictions in the last few months leading into it, but I love Ashes cricket. As an Australian, it's still the ultimate. I know India's sort of come up, Australia-India. The India-England series recently was just incredible too. So, but it's still that Australia-England. The Ashes, it is something special, isn't it? So I remember getting up in the middle of the night as a young fellow watching it when the Aussies were over touring England, and just the passion. I think it's going to be pretty close this year. It's our top orders a little bit. How you going? I think England's batting order looks quite solid, depending on. Bazball, I know there's been a lot spoken there, played on bigger grounds as they have here in Australia. I want to see how that goes, see how Duckett goes, see how Brook goes and co. But and our bowling attack's pretty good, whereas England, sure you've got Jofra Archer, Woody. I'm a big fan of Woody. You need those guys on the park as much as possible. So I say every game's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be exciting every game with Australia just getting across the line in every game. So my prediction's the same as it's been every year. So,
You can never waver from
I
that
don't
now,
want to
Glenn.
disappoint. I don't want to disappoint you guys.
No matter no matter what happens, you've always got to go for it, haven't you? So yeah, fair play, fair play. Do
Yeah.
you still do you ever get anyone teasing you about those predictions when they don't go to plan?
No, not too much. I think people just come to expect it. When I played and I made those predictions, you had guys like Ricky Ponting, Damien Martin. To start with, they didn't like it because they thought, oh, he's putting too much pressure on us. And I didn't mind put a bit of extra pressure on the team that I was lucky enough to play. And I thought we always played better with a bit of pressure. But in the end, they just said, oh, that's just what Glenn, that's just what Pidge does. And I don't think they took too much notice of it in the end. But occasionally, if it goes a bit pear-shaped, but every now and then I get one right. So, the last 3 Ashes series in Australia have got not bad. One 5-0, two others 4-0. Could have quite easily been 15-0. But
Stop it. We don't need reminding, Glenn.
Yeah.
Come on.
And the last away tour doesn't count either. That was a hoax.
Yeah, I know. I think Broady's come out and says that one doesn't count. I think Stuart Broad. He's also said this is the weakest Australian team since, was it 10, 11, was it? Was that the last time England won in Australia 3-1? So, yeah, it's all starting to build up, isn't it? And that's what it's about.
You talk about the Australian squad. It's funny, Chris, isn't it? Because there's always that kind of envy when we sort of don't see the Australian team in England or vice versa for a couple of years. You see the scorecards, you see the big innings, you see the highlights, and there's always an envy in terms of looking at the squad. And I've just felt that a little bit with you guys talking about our batting lineup. And look, we support the England cricket team kind of unconditionally as you do with Australia. But you do look at, I look at the bowling attack of you guys, which you highlighted, and go, goodness, that's a good one. For us, that strikes the fear of God into us a little bit. Pat Cummins might potentially, we don't know yet at the time of recording, how much of the series he's going to miss, if he's going to miss any at all. How much of a miss would he be if he did? And who do you see stepping up in his place?
Oh, it'd be massive, without a doubt. I think, when you've got one of the top bowlers, the captain, when they're missing, sure, you can get someone in who can bowl just as well, but just the positive impact that it has, say, on England. If Pat Cummins isn't playing, it just changes the attitude of English batsmen. It's just a confidence thing. There's a certain awe around some people. So if Pat Cummins doesn't play the first couple of Test matches, that changes the dynamics without a doubt. Hopefully he's fit enough to play a big part of this Ashes series, because when you look at that bowling attack, Pat Cummins, Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Starc, Nathan Lyon, there's over 1,500 Test wickets. That's phenomenal. I can't think of another team or another era that's had that many within their bowling attack. So, it will have an impact if he doesn't play, and probably a positive impact from England's perspective. But then you've got someone like Scotty Boland, who's has got incredible stats here in Australia. I thought he would have done better over in England. He didn't do too well on that last Ashes series. So, the mindset of the batsman will change from facing, say, Pat Cummins to Scotty Boland, even though he probably bowls just as well. As that mindset is what makes all the difference.
And Glenn, when you're looking at the England team, who do you think Australia will have an eye on as being the real game changers, the people that can really take the game away from them with this current setup?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting lineup that you have, and sort of with Bazball and that aggressive play. I'm actually a big fan. I'm not a fan of trying to take all pressure off the players. I think players need to play and perform under pressure, but I like taking fear out of the equation. Go out there and play without fear. That's when you find out what you can achieve. So, and I think to a degree, Bazball does do that. Brendan McCullum's brought that in, and I'm a fan of Baz. And you got Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett at the top. I like Zach. I like it the way he goes about it. Unfortunately, he hasn't got the runs he probably could have got, and probably gets out a little bit cheaply sometimes. Ben Duckett is a guy that just goes hard all the time. I'm keen to see how he goes over here. He's a batsman that just does not want to let a single ball go, and on bouncy Australian wickets, I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes. So that top order is going to be really important. There's been a lot spoken about with Joe Root, just a class player without a doubt. He'll be remembered as one of the greats when he retires, but he's yet to get 100 in Australia. And I think if he doesn't get 100 over here, that'll be a big sort of chink in his armour without a doubt. So how Joe Root goes, but then you've got Harry Brook, and he's a special player. He might be once in a generation player. So again, I'm keen to see how he goes on bigger outfields and whether he can adapt to that. But I think the openers are going to be important. But Joe Root, whether he can get his 100, and then Harry Brook, how Australia sort of bowl to Harry Brook and control the situation, that's going to be massive. Ben Stokes, he's got a lot of respect, so the Australians will respect him. But I think Root and Brook are going to be two big keys.
Yeah, it's a case of, it feels to us, we love Rooty, obviously. Mm-hmm. It feels to us like if he gets 100 early in the series, maybe in that first Test match, that is so important, because the floodgates, they could open, couldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, so if Rudy gets 100 in that first game or two, the positive impact that'll have on the rest of the England lineup is going to be massive. So that's a big sort of matchup that the Australians will be looking to keep on top of. So not let Joe get away early in the series, and so there's some big ones there definitely.
Who just going back to kind of when you played Ashes series, you obviously had an amazing record in Ashes series. Is there any moment that you wish that you could replay again? I think I might know the answer to this one, and it might not necessarily be when the game is going on.
I've got a couple. Warne dropping KP in that the match at Oval, the fifth Test when he was on 0. That could have had an impact on the series. But a lot of people when I go over to England, I have a lot of people come up to me and say one of their favourite sporting moments of all time is me treading on the ball at Edgbaston. So that, if we could change that, and I just miss the ball, or we don't get to training so early, or when we go straight into warm-ups rather than sort of hanging around, wasting a bit of time, that would have been nice just to see what would have happened. A lot of people say, the series would have been different, but to give England credit, Warne and the England cricket team had been playing well. They'd been a strong unit for a while. They'd been winning. They had confidence. So I think that series was always going to be, it's remembered as one of the best of all time. And I think you had two quality teams. So, probably that moment where I trod on the ball. If I could relive that and not tread on the ball, who knows what would have happened.
I must admit, Glenn, it has to be one of the greatest English Ashes moments of all time, and it's absolutely nothing to do with what happened in the game. So that just gives you credit for being such a superstar. And actually, talking about that, you've been one of the greatest Test match bowlers of all time. But when you're looking at the England lineup, who was the toughest batsman that you bowled at during that era when you were at your pomp?
I always enjoyed the challenge of bowling to the guys who were the best, and I grew up watching the West Indies of that sort of late 70s, early 80s, and they were incredible how they targeted opposition players, the captains, what have you. So I always try to target the best opposition batsmen and have a bit of fun. But I remember, when Warne was in his prime, I think he came out and he said that I would target him because he was their best batsman. So, Warne and I had plenty of battles. He did quite well. So Warne was up there without a doubt. Always enjoyed bowling the Athers, so I have to get that one in while I can. But probably towards the end of my career was when KP started, and Kevin Peterson. KP sort of he'd like to go hard at me and come down the pitch, and so he was always an interesting challenge as well. So a couple of guys there. So definitely sort of Warne and KP. I think are up there.
And then in turn, before we end this episode, which bowler from the current Australian setup would you love to have at the other end, helping you, just make the batsmen quake in their boots a little bit at the moment?
In the current lineup,
Yeah,
yeah, the guy. Well, it's tough because the three quicks are so different. Pat Cummins, he bowls at different angles from the rest of the guys and just gets the ball angling into off stump and then either straightening away or continuing on. Josh Hazlewood, he just never bowls a bad ball. He's deceptive. He just gets that bounce, a little bit of movement, and he sort of. There hasn't been a huge amount. I don't think a lot of talk in England about Hazlewood and just how good he is. But the guy I like is Mitchell Starc. He's a match winner. He's got that X factor. He can blast teams out when he gets it right, with the skill that he has, the lengths he bowls, the pace, the swing, left armour. He can just run through lineups, and he's got that ability. So, if Mitchell Starc didn't mind bowling uphill into the wind, I'm happy for him to bowl at the other end. But when I had, you have someone like Warne at the other end through my career, it was, I was pretty spoilt, wasn't I?
I've still got PTSD, Glenn, from that first ball of the last Ashes series. We had 600 people in a pub. It was midnight in England. We were going to have a lock-in all night and watch on, have a really good night together. First ball, everyone's really excited. Yeah. Rory Burns bowled. The mood of an event just changed like that. You have never seen a room change so quickly. It was a long old night, but he's certainly one of the greats. So I think just to close out this episode, then, if you had one word or one phrase of a gut feeling about this upcoming Ashes series, what would that be?
Well, I hope it's going to be exciting. The last series for Australia-India was massive. England-India series just recently was incredible as well. And with T20 coming along and sort of the hype around that, the IPL and all these T20 franchises starting up, Test cricket's still the ultimate. I think, as the name suggests, it's a true test, and we've got to protect it and got to look after it. So as much as I say I want to see Australia win 5-0, I want Test cricket. I want people coming to it and loving it and enjoying it. And it's those close matches and getting people through the gate is what it's all about. So I hope this series is going to be exciting.
Sure it will be. Glenn, thank you very much for joining us and stepping into enemy territory. It wasn't too bad, that, was it?
Oh, no, I'm used to enemy territory. My late wife was Jane. I say my kids are like 2% English. So I've been in England quite a bit. So I think I'm quite giving when it comes to that sort of thing. But it's been good fun. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for having us. And we'll be hearing from you again talking about the pink test in the next few weeks. Thanks so much, Glenn.
Cheers.
So, Finn, we've got a very important message for Barmy Army members and listeners here, especially those who are travelling out to the Ashes with us. Obviously, these guys are travelling halfway across the world, going to see some amazing cricket. But as well as that, I think the question I've got for you is, are these guys going to go all the way to Australia and not experience some of these bucket list activities?
No, it's a no-brainer. We've got 3,000 members minimum booked on, and I think we want to make sure that they're provided with the best bucket list experiences. You're travelling 10,000 miles, and imagine not ticking off the Great Barrier Reef. It's a no-brainer. You're looking at, white beaches. You've got tropical fish swimming past you. You're in a David Attenborough documentary, practically living and breathing it. It's an unbelievable experience that we want our members to get the chance to tick off while you're already there on your bucket list. Ashes.
And I mean, as well, it's one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It's an incredible thing to see while you're in Australia anyway. And as you talk on, it's that white sand beaches, it's the secluded coves, that postcard experience, and you're coming all this way. Why would you go home without seeing that? And I think the amazing thing about this as well, that with this offer that we're going to get onto for our members and listeners, is that if you want to flip it completely and if you want some heart-pumping activity between test matches, I mean, Australia's got some of the most iconic skydive locations on the planet. Stunning beaches, incredible views, and even better, that Skydive Australia has locations near the cricket ground. So Melbourne, Great Ocean Road, Easy.
Yeah, stone's throw away. Cricket, back to Barmy Army HQ. The day after, you want something to sort of mix it up a little bit. You've got a skydive, you've got the Great Barrier Reef excursions.
It's once in a lifetime. It's once in a lifetime. You're making that trip, so let's make it legendary.
We keep repeating ourselves, but
But
it's
it is
so
the,
obvious.
yeah, it's the truth. And then, I mean, even better for our members and listeners, we've got a sweet deal for them. So thanks to our partnership, they've sweetened the deal. So we've got Barmy Army exclusive. So our listeners can get 15% off on their booking when they use code BARMY25 at the checkout.
Exclusive to you members.
Exactly that. And obviously that's for the Reef Unlimited side of it. So as you touched on, that Great Barrier Reef documentary experience. So if you head to Reef Unlimited, use your code at the checkout. All the details will be on the screen, everything you need to know. So that's if you want the Great Barrier Reef experience. And then if you want that heart-pumping skydive, then it's Skydive Australia. And even better, it's the same deal. It's the same code. So 15% off, code BARMY25. Don't miss out.
Yeah, no brainer.